Ciao everybody, I am back today with the October 2025 Sam's Bead Box. It was called Marigold Memory, and I've done a couple of other videos on it, but I sort of was hoarding my favorite beads from the box. They're just, these are my colors, and to me these are like the pinks and purples that I always love, but they're richer and deeper for the upcoming season, so I love them. And I'm going to be using one of my favorite techniques that I use when I have really small beads. These are purple garnet faceted rounds. They were in this box, they were grade A, and they are 3mm. So they're stunning. They're very high quality gemstones, and as you can see, they sparkle like crazy. This is what I have left of my strand, but they're so small that when you put them against like other beads, they look, too small. The scale is really off. So one of my favorite techniques is to create almost its own bead with those beads and make these little rings as connectors, and then turn the other beads that I love. These were so gorgeous. I had a really hard time cutting these open. These are a 6mm Czech glass fire polished fuchsia. It's the color that I just love. So I finally did cut them open. And then these gorgeous coin beads are amethyst gem cut coins, and they were about a 10 to 10.5mm size. They have this really gorgeous profile, and it was just another favorite. So I did a little bit of the bracelet so that you can kind of see that I'm going to be alternating my favorite beads and separating them by those really beautiful gemstone rings. So when it's connected, it's going to look like this. And I also have some brass chain here that's really pretty oval link for an extender chain, some diamond cut, really fancy jump rings to add in, a gold plated lobster claw with this little swivel feature. I love that. It makes putting your bracelets on and off really easy. And then over here, I'm a little bit uncertain. I have a really fine gauge ball head pin, and I have this cute little bow. It's a charm and a connector because this little part of the bow can also take a loop. And then I had this left over. This is a table cut drop in a magenta white silk, and we got 4 of these in the box, and I've used them in my other projects, but I had one left, so I don't know if I'm gonna feel like it's too big, but on my extender chain on the very last link, I'll want to put something. So I have these out here to play with. And I also designed a pair of earrings, and these are just so stunning. I have to tell you guys, I have this really tiny chain. It's ridiculously small, and I ordered it by mistake, but I didn't send it back, and then it sort of became a challenge. I've got, well, there it goes. It sort of became a challenge of using it and using it in design. So I know that's not a great camera angle for you guys, but it's very dangly, and it features one of the gem cut coin amethyst beads. And I have some Toho 11.0 seed beads here, which are galvanized, so they will not lose that shiny finish. And that's also what I've used to make my little ring components. And so I just carried that over. I got these really cool new little dot ear posts with backs, and I just thought that was the perfect little accent. So we'll make the earrings. They're really easy. There are a few challenges, mostly for me because I have such tiny chain. And I also have 20 gauge wire here, and 2 of the main tools I'm going to be using are my magical crimping plier and my 1-step looper in the 2.25mm. So I needed this little bit larger loop size so that my links here will move freely. And so the magical crimping plier takes a number 2 or 2mm crimp tube and turns it into a little bead. And 11.0 seed beads are typically 2mm. So that really makes like an infinity ring, and you can't really tell once it's all connected where that crimp tube has been crimped and where there is a seed bead. So, and I use my scraps of my soft flex wire for that. So let's make one of those first. I just set this one up because stringing these little microfaceted gemstones can be a little tedious. So I went ahead and strung the pattern, and I'll just back it down so that you can see. So it is 6. If you're going to do this, you could do 8. You can do almost any number you want, but 6 was really the scale. As you could see, that made my ring the same size as my coin bead, and that I really like that look. And there is a seed bead in between every one of the 6. And so an even number is good, but on the last one, you skip the seed bead because that's where you feed on your crimp tube. You feed it on to one side, and then from the opposite side, you feed on the other end. And that's what gives you that ring. And then when you turn this number 2 crimp tube into a little bead, you can't tell the difference between where there's a seed bead and where it's crimped. And it's just really cool. It's this little infinity ring, and it tricks the eye. Like, how is that held together? And so it is a little tricky because I always pull my, especially on these really small beads, but I always pull my ring nice and tight, but it doesn't really stay as tight because this tool needs a little space to get in here, and you really want to be careful that you are not chomping down on your gemstones. And you also, before you close the tool, like I can feel that I am right in the center, and I'm going to give it a final tight pull before I close my magical crimping plier. So that's what it looks like. And when I take it away, the tube is a little square with 4 pinched corners. And now I'm going to just sneak in here in the opposite direction. Just, you have to turn it around till you get in that sweet spot, because it needs to be squarely in the middle. And I just felt it go in, and it needs to be in the opposite direction. And then you close down, and then since you're working inside a ring, you just keep your ring in that position and open and close the tool, and that's overkill. It's already a little bead. So that little crimp tube now looks like one of the 11-0 seed beads. And then to complete the illusion, you want to get it cut as close as you can. So I kind of pull from this direction, and I use my Softflex 49 strand bead stringing wire. I keep a scrap bag clipped to my craft cart right behind my work table. So I just go in and grab scraps to make these rings. So that's what they're all made out of. And there is this beautiful little ring component. This makes, this is like a beaded chain or a rosary chain to the 100th power. Like, it's really, really a special beaded chain. So all I'm doing is connecting one to the next. So we'll go ahead and connect this one, and then I'll show you how I use my one-step looper to turn my beads into components. And like you can, I'm going to go ahead and connect like over that crimped bead, and then the other side is going to go over one of the seed beads. But when you look at this as a chain, those rings just look infinity. And I really baby my loops. I want to make sure that they are touching, that they're closed, get in there and work harden. And so it's looking like that. So the next thing will be a coin bead turned into a component. So I'm going to take my 20 gauge wire and take my one-step looper. I don't need to go through the guide hole because there are no beads on my wire, and this back cutter makes a fresh cut for you, and it would just waste that much wire. So I only need to make sure that my wire is past the back cutter and against this plate right here, rather than out like that, because most likely you won't get a good closed loop. So against the plate gives you the best chance of getting a good closed loop. And then I can close my tool and then pull my wire down and make sure it's straight and smooth, and that my loop is centered on my wire. So, and this is a very quirky little tool. I won't lie, it is a quirky tool. Like, that loop did not get closed all the way. It depends on the angle, it depends on like the bead you're using, but I still love it. I make really beautiful, consistent loops. You can totally do them with your pliers, and I'll show you All my other little drops, I did them by hand with my pliers. But when I'm making a beaded chain and earrings too, I love using that tool, even though I still have to usually tidy up my loops and work hard, which I would do anyway. So I'm just going to feed on my coin bead, and I'm going to get, you don't have to do all your loops in the same direction for every project, but on this one I am. So the opening of my loop is at the top, and the one-step looper always makes the loops going upwards. So this time I will use the guide hole, and I'm going to push my bead right up to this front jaw. I'm going to gently close my tool, not popping it closed, but I'm using it as an extra hand, so I can see I have a little bit too much space there, so I'm going to release it a little bit and push it up and let it make that cut for me. And now I'm closing it, and I'm not totally closed here. I'm going to pull my bead down as I close, and if you feel like you're putting stress on your bead and the loop is not closed all the way, stop closing it. You can totally finish with your pliers. But I'm going to open this anyway, so on this coin bead, because of the shape of it, it didn't close that loop either. But, you know, like I said, it's a quirky little tool. It doesn't stop me from loving it or using it. So I'm just going to come across and connect right over that other seed bead, the opposite seed bead I mean to say. And just baby that loop, get it closed. And now I'm going to open this side. And this is why I don't worry about if my loop is not closed when I'm using that tool, because the purpose of simple loops is to open and close them. And I'm going to do that anyway to connect. So then I make sure that it's closed at this time. And then, like, oh, with a little force, open and close my plier. And look at this gorgeous beaded chain. I mean, this is just absolutely stunning. I actually could layer this bracelet with the bracelet that I already made with this box, but it's just so pretty. And so I'm going to continue making my components like that until I have approximately 6.5 inches. And I'm going to make up the difference in my length on my bracelet with this pretty extender chain. This is just a scrap that I had, and if you want to do this design but you don't have a pretty chain, don't ever forget that you can make your own chain using jump rings and just connect them together. I do that sometimes as well. So back into my scrap bag of my 49 strand, just pick out a color that is similar to what I'm working on. And then I am literally using every one. Let's see, I need 6, 3. I'm using every one of these gorgeous garnets except for the last one. They're so beautiful. So I'm going to put that there because I may just use that in my dangle. I just loved those beads. And then I'm going to just string. Now when you're using scraps, you know, sometimes it's a little hard to hold on to, but I don't like to waste anything, and I'm not really a fan of working off the spool on things, so I just do it this way. But I'm just going to string a gemstone and 11-0 a gemstone until I have all 6 on here. The magical crimping plier. Just being really careful not to crush, but, you know, chomp down on my gemstones. This is such a good way to make really tiny beads have a bigger presence in your design. And you know, if you need to sort of coordinate the scale to go from really tiny beads to, you know, a 10mm bead, it's a really great technique. I use it a lot. And you can also do it with fine gauge wire. I do it also with fine gauge wire, but I really love this method. And every time I wear a bracelet or earrings where I have incorporated like gemstone rings or seed bead rings, I get so many compliments and people saying, where did you get that? So I love this technique. I use it a lot. And so I'm going to finish my length here with one of these and then one of the fire polish. And while I'm connecting, I'll just share with you guys, I do a power walk every morning in my neighborhood. I am very fortunate where I live. My whole neighborhood is built around a really big lake. And in the morning, oftentimes you can see water skiing and jet skiing and, people having fun on the lake. But there are also several really small ponds around as well that, feed off of that lake. So I'm so fortunate because we have hawks and sandhill cranes and alligators and turtles, alligator turtles, snapping turtles, gopher turtles, bunnies. It is just absolutely amazing, the wildlife that comes when there is water. And I've been filming for you guys when I walk in the morning, and yesterday, the video that I got yesterday was extremely beautiful. It was a particularly beautiful day here. And so at the end of the video, I'll put that up for you guys so you can kind of see. Okay, let me see where my length is. Pretty perfect for an extender chain. So I did have some jump rings out here to add my extender chain on, but I think on this side I'm going to open my simple loop and attach my extender chain right to that loop, right to that last simple loop, and just get in here and close it really well. Make sure that wire is touching and work hardened. And then on this side I'm going to take one of these fancy jump rings, and in fact I think I'm going to get a smaller one. These are gold filled diamond cut, and there are 3 sizes in here, and that is so useful. So I'm going to take out this smaller one and maybe another smaller one. I don't know if I can attach, maybe I'll do a small one. I love my dangles on the end of an extender chain. It is, to me, prime real estate for putting something beautiful. And I can link these little gold bows. They are so beautiful. I just got them and I really love them. I'm going to put my jump ring through my last simple loop and add my lobster claw. And these jump rings are so wonderful. They're really heavy gauge, but they're also so fancy with the diamond cutting that when you close it properly and make the connection, it becomes a solid ring. You literally can't see how the connection is. And let's see how I did on my length. Oh, that's perfect. So I have my little extender chain, and I can clasp my, I love adjustable bracelets, but I can clasp this anywhere that I want on my extender chain. And I just need to decide on what I want for the final drop. And I considered literally just putting a jump ring through. I also have extras of these, and I could go make a little loop and go through there. That's really quite pretty. I love this bead, but I feel like it's a little bit too large for a drop on a bracelet that's this scale. So I want a little spacer bead. Just have these little gold rondelles. I just want a little spacer bead between my fire polish and my last garnet. I'm going to pop my last garnet on here. I will also link these head pins. These are 22 gauge. They're very fine if you are working with pearls or tiny little micro faceted gemstones like this. You really don't have a lot of options about what will fit through there, but these do fit beautifully. Look at that pretty little drop. And so what I'm going to do here is just by hand make a simple loop. I'm going to make a fairly large one. I'm going to put a bend here. I'm going to make this fairly large so that I can attach it to my bow. So I'm just going to put my round nose pliers in there, and then just bring that over the barrel, rotate it, and bring this wire around and get my little charm centered. Now from here, you could wrap this and do a wrapped loop, and that's exactly the same way that I start my wrapped loops, but this is a very easy way to get a perfect, really pretty, simple loop. Just reach inside and snip where the two wires meet each other, and then I'm going to open it to give myself a little space and feed it through my bow, and then come in here and close it really well. Work hard in that loop as well. Look at that beautiful little drop. And then I'm going to take this tiny, the smallest jump ring from that mix, and attach it to my final drop on my extender chain. You know, you can leave your extender chains empty, and I do see a lot of jewelry like that, but for me that is prime real estate, and I just can't stand to have an empty link on the end of a piece. Look at that gorgeous little drop. Isn't that so pretty? It's so dangly and gorgeous. Okay, my bracelet is finished. Let me put my seed beads away and clean up a little bit, and we're gonna do this stunning coordinating earring. Okay, so for the earring, I started out with my Soft Flex craft wire in the 24 gauge, and I mostly did that because, as I said, this chain that I had is ridiculously small. And so I also fed my chain onto this same wire to make all the cuts at the same time. So I cut 4 of the shorter lengths and 2 of the longer length that will be in the middle of each earring. And I went ahead and got that ready, and then I just popped one of those 11-0 seed beads in between each of the chains, and then 3 seed beads on the outer side. So it's a total of 8 seed beads, and I'm just, you know, getting that down about in the middle. And then I'm going to bring one of my faceted coin beads, my amethyst coin beads, into the equation here, and it's kind of that same thing that we did going in opposite directions with the bead stringing wire. I'm going to do the same thing on this coin bead. And when I put my fine gauge wire through, and I did use my pliers to pull because you want it to be really nice and snug when you pull this. I also, before I pull, I want to make sure that my wires that I'm pulling are not twisted and kind of on the same side like that. Can you see? So they're like on the top, just because as I pull this down, I want those to be in position to go to the top of the earring and get twisted. And I want this to be really pretty and really snug and straight across the bottom, like following the curve of my coin bead exactly. So, you know, with wire, I have always found that the more slowly I go with wire, the better result I get, because then you don't kink your wire, you don't put unwanted bends that, you know, and especially on this, because I really want to copy the shape of my bead that I'm framing. And I don't have a lot of strength in my hands, so I make use of my pliers when I get here to do that final pull. Nylon jaw pliers are great for not marring the wire. This is, my chain has got an anti-tarnish coating, and this craft wire does as well, and that's so great. But I don't want to mar it because then you will disturb that coating, but I do want to pull tight. So, you know, make your pliers help you. And then just make sure that's in position and looking great. And I do want it on the outside of my bead. So that is perfect. And now I'm going to bring this wire up to the top of the bead on this side, and this one up to the top of the bead on this side. And here's where I want to get a nice twist. Let me get my smaller pliers and start my first one. I'm going to just put a little twist in there, and I want this twist to be really neat and really tight. So again, go slowly. You can do it with your hands. A lot of times when I'm twisting, it's not in the right position. Get it in the right position. And a lot of times when I'm twisting, I find that nylon jaw pliers are great for getting a nice tight twist. So I'm holding just light tension here and slightly pulling as I'm twisting. And it's just a great way to get a good, tight, even twist. Because this is so small, when I turn this into a loop, I don't want this to be messy. If you like, you know, messy wraps and that, then that's another look, but I want neatness. That's my vibe. That's more than I'll need. But see how perfect the twist is? It's just such a great, easy way. Nylon jaw pliers and wire are like peanut butter and jelly. They go together. That's a lot more than I'll need. So I can stop there. And just so that I don't cut myself, I'm going to snip this off. And then before I move on, like I just want to straighten everything out. It's a very fine gauge wire, but I just want to make sure that it's just where I want it on the top of my coin bead. That looks amazing. And then because of the orientation of my little post earring, I need to wrap this loop so that it's parallel to my mat and parallel to my coin bead. So I'm going to hold it this way, and I'm going to grab my bent chain nose pliers right here at the top of the bead and put a 90-degree bend. I'm going to wrap this into a wrapped loop exactly as if it were not a twisted wire. Just come over the top, rotate my plier, bring that around, get it nice and centered. Just put one wrap right beneath the previous one. And on my first earring, rather than trying to tuck the wire underneath the coil, when I reach the top of the bead, I let that last wrap lay kind of at the base of my coil like that. And then I'm going to come around to the back and snip and tuck. Snip and tuck, the wire worker's mantra. Just get that cut end under there as well as I can. So that is ready for my ear wire, and I did my dangles last just so that they would not be in my way. So the middle one is really simple. It's just one of those fire polish on a ball head pin, and I'm just going to do these by hand as well. So I'll show you my method for simple loops again. And I'm going to use smaller pliers this time, again, because I have this ridiculously tiny chain. But after I put the bend in, this looks like exactly the way that I start my wrapped loops. Bring that wire over the plier, rotate, and then bring it around. I read all your comments, every single one. And I know from reading them that simple loops is a really big problem for a lot of you. So this is an easy way to get your simple loops in. When I take my plier away, the simple loop is already formed. And then from here, if I wanted to, as you saw, I could grab this loop and wrap. So you have that option, but I'm going to come inside and right where my two wires meet, snip my head pin. And then it's ready to attach to something. So I'm going to open it, to give myself a little bit of space. And this goes on my longest chain. And like I say, my chain is ridiculously small, so this was a little tedious for me. I was challenged because I didn't send it back. I was challenging myself to actually use this chain and make it beautiful, and I really like this. I really like what I came up with. And I thought about just letting, and another option is to have more chains on this earring and just let it not have a drop on the end. But I thought this was really, just really pretty and very dangly, even though it's not a big earring. So I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. I put one of my garnets, an 11/0 seed bead, and a garnet, and I'm going to repeat that 2 more times and attach this to the chains on either side of my fire polish. Okay, look at how gorgeous this earring is. This is totally my style. It's kind of like a little mini chandelier earring, but gemstones. I mean, a fire polish and gemstones. I absolutely love it. And then I love these little, I found these and I just love these little minimalist like dot earrings. So I'm going to open this loop and add it to the wrapped loop that I created with the twisted wire. Just get that closed really well. And pop the earring back on. This is, for me, this is everyday jewelry. And I don't always wear a necklace. I really don't. Or, you know, I don't always, mostly always I wear a ring. But I don't always wear a necklace. But I do almost never, seriously, almost never go without earrings and a bracelet. And so this kind of a jewelry set for me is just absolutely wonderful. I love it. I think these are so fun. They're flirty, they're gemstones, they have a lot of movement, but they're not too huge because I don't usually wear really big earrings. And this is an everyday bracelet for me. This is a go-to bracelet. And then if you've never like made bracelets with extender chains, this is the best way to clasp them, is lay your extender chain over your arm and then bring your lobster claw clasp around, and then you can select whichever one you would like to attach it to. But isn't that absolutely gorgeous? It just features the beads, and they were my favorite beads in the box. So if you are interested in Sam's Bead Box, I do have a discount code, and I'll put that in the description box under this video. It's right under the title of the video. The little word more is there, but then you have to tap more a second time to reveal the entire box. And I will be back with their next box. And they do have some box extras on the website, and sometimes just a one-off if you just want to buy a past box. Those are also there on the website. And I really thank you for choosing my video today. If you would take a second to give me a thumbs up, it really helps support my channel. And also, if you see that new feature, it hasn't appeared for everyone on every account yet because it's just rolled out, but it may pop up where you can hype a video, and you're allowed to do 3 videos per week. And if you would choose one of mine, I would be so grateful. I really would appreciate it. And I thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy my morning nature walk exercise. It's one of the things that I do to kind of keep my head clear. There's a lot of stress in the world, and making jewelry and beading is a great mental health exercise, as well as a creative and artisan outlet. But getting outside, away from the screens, looking at nature, listening to the sounds, watching what the wild animals do and the little animals, and I see little cats and other things, it's really just a great relaxation and really a great coping mechanism. So I'm going to try to put those at the end of my videos as much as I can. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you in the next video. have any food, guys. You're so cute. I don't have any food, guys. Even the ducks. You guys are so cute. I don't have any food today. I'll bring some, I promise. I promise I'll bring some food. A little gator. He says no alligator paparazzi. Many turtles. It's just so much wildlife in this water. There's a turtle on the bank way over there. It just makes you so happy. Okay, Wally Gator. I'll see you tomorrow.